to Sovereign Conversations with the Soul Attorney, the podcast where law, leadership, and liberation collide. I'm your host, Vanessa Locicero, lawyer, entrepreneur, energy worker, and your guide to building a business and life that's truly sovereign. Here, we challenge the status quo, outdated business rules, and explore what it really means to be sovereign in your life and work. Whether we're breaking down legal essentials, tapping into spiritual downloads and the power of intention, or we're having deep, unfiltered conversations with visionary entrepreneurs, healers, and thought leaders, every episode is designed to help you step into your power, protect what matters, and create your life on your own terms. So if you're ready to create a life and business rooted in belief, power, and purpose, take a deep breath, step into your sovereignty, because court is now in session. Oh, 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 oh. Welcome back to Sovereign Conversations with the Soul Attorney, the podcast where we talk about independence, freedom, and living your most sovereign life, unlocking alignment to building that purpose in your business. So today I have an incredible guest. Tamar Lyons is here with me today. And Tamar is an entrepreneur, a social media marketing expert, and agency owner. And she is here to share about how storytelling and how she helps people pull the authentic stories out, from behind the curtain and to really share their truest, most authentic version of their story and the power behind that. I love how Tamar unapologetically owns who she is. And I'm so excited for her to share her story because I know there's so many layers to your passion and to, why you do what you do and why you're so good at what you do. And I'm really excited for you to share with the listeners the power of storytelling and how you have found and seen in your work, in your business, that when you do help people show up as their most authentic self, it allows them to step into a whole nother level of power and confidence and, fully embracing who they are. Sweet.
Yeah,
okay. So welcome, Tamar. Yeah.
Thank you. What an intro. That was beautiful. I really appreciate it. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to dive in. This is like my absolute passion, favorite topic to talk about. So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and I cannot wait to share more.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure, Tamar. And I would just love to start by setting the stage for our listeners. And even for myself, we know each other professionally, but I would love to hear a little bit more about the backstory and how you became, this unapologetic kick-ass woman today.
Thank you, for sure. So I own a social media marketing agency. This is something that I started about 5 years ago. I never expected for this to be an agency. I fully went into this saying, I want to tell people stories. I want to help people tell their stories better. And this is something that just kind of happened. I fell into it by doing this. I started off, my passion was, I always wanted to be an actor or, somebody on screen, a singer, an entertainer. Like I love being in the spotlight. And that was always my dream. And, growing up, my parents were always like, no, you need to get a real job. You need to get a real university education. You can't make it as an actor. So I went to school for radio and television, and I went into broadcasting, and I worked in TV, documentary, and lifestyle for a few years before I went off and started doing this full time. And that was really the first time I got exposure to seeing real people and how they told their stories, and that the way their stories were formatted really mattered. We had everyday people that we were seeing every single day that we were interviewing, having it on segments on TV or in a documentary. And they had really amazing, inspiring stories, but they didn't even see that in themselves. They didn't even realize. And through the questions that I would ask them, through having conversations with them, we would pull that out. And that was my biggest passion. I loved that. I loved helping people see the beauty that they have within inside themselves. And so that was pretty early on. Then obviously during the pandemic, just lifestyle things, things just started shifting. I didn't like the hours I was working. I didn't feel like I was being creatively valued, and I didn't have the opportunities that I wanted to have. And so I ended up I ended up starting this on the side. And then eventually, it kind of grew so big that I was able to bet all in on myself, go all in on myself and bet on myself and start my agency, full time. And I went into this being a freelancer saying, I want to help people tell their stories and I can definitely go ahead and do that. And yeah, I'd say my journey has been pretty interesting because that's me as a business owner, building this agency, helping people show up and share their story. And I think there's also this aspect of me, having grown up, at the time I was married, I'm now divorced. It's been almost 2 years. I'm now a digital nomad. And I'd say like all the things that helped cultivate me and become the person that I am they all stem from me standing in alignment with my highest power and with my truth and standing in what it is that I want, not to live my life based on what other people are telling me I should do, and do the things that light me up, make me feel excited and make me feel, that I'm doing the right thing. So I'd say all those things put together, that's kind of like the little bits and pieces of my story, but those are all pretty much little elements of what I do. And now, I travel, I get to work from literally anywhere in the world. I've got a team, an agency, and just trying to live my most authentic life every day.
I love that. In sharing your story, Tamar, you've already kind of shared about some of the, conventional norms that you were like, fuck it, I'm done. Like, I don't want to live that way and follow that. And I feel like the pandemic broke down so many doors for a lot of people. I know even in the legal industry, there was like no idea that you could like see a lawyer on Zoom and work with a lawyer, remotely and go through that whole process without ever meeting in person. And so I'm sure for you, all of those changes that happened during the pandemic, as you said, allowed you to kind of break through. But maybe if there was like one breakthrough or like one, norm or should that you were like, that's a hard no for me, what was it for you that kind of prompted you? I always like to ask people about like the shift between being in that 9 to 5 job and going out on your own. Like, was there something in there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So definitely, I'd say there's definitely more than one. I'll share the top one. I think my whole life story is like noticing those shifts and then leaning into them. I think that there's so many I could share, but specific and the 9 to 5, going from my job to betting all in on myself. I'd say there was one really big thing that I started noticing. I have a lot of confidence in myself. I know I'm really good at what I do. And I am really good at what I do from a creative perspective, from a business perspective. I know when I'm doing my best work. And often what ends up happening in jobs is I don't want to say get taken advantage of. My employers like to use me for my skills because I have very many skills that are very valuable for employers. So when I was interning, when I was working, always, I'd have my job description, but then I'd be doing 17 other people's jobs because I could, and I am a people pleaser and I would love to, and I didn't have good boundaries and all those things. But I just remember, being in this job and during the pandemic, because, the television industry was very shut down and limited in terms of what we could do. We really leaned heavily into the digital marketing side of things and really leveraging, the company that I was with, the talent and creating YouTube channels for them and their social media platforms and running their personal brand and things like that. And I was seeing the power of that. I was seeing the impact of the work that I was doing. I was running their social media accounts and getting brand deals. And I was seeing the dollar value of the contracts coming through. And I remember one contract, specifically one that like really stood out to me. There was one contract that came through and the value of it was more than my entire annual salary. And
damn.
Yeah, I wasn't jealous. I don't know. It just kind of allowed me to see things differently.
Perspective.
It gave me perspective. Yeah. It was like, my boss is going to make my annual salary by doing 4 hours of work. I'm working 9 to 5. Sometimes it was more than 9 to 5, to be honest. I was working like, I'd get into the office at 8:00 in the morning and leave at 7. I was really putting in a lot of time. And I'm like, I'm going to be putting in all the work. I'm going to be producing this, ideating this, getting it out there. My boss is just the one that's doing that has the relationships, that has the connections, that has the business acumen that I don't have. What am I doing wrong? Like, that was kind of where the wheel started turning. It wasn't like, oh, he doesn't deserve this. He does deserve it. He's amazing and talented and is great. I just was that's when the shift happened. Is I'm the one implementing, I'm the one doing all the work. Why am I not getting any of the reward? In such a huge
Totally.
disparity,
Oh
right?
yeah,
That was my annual salary that he was going to get in like 4 to 5 hours of work.
for sure.
So I'd say that was like the biggest moment. And yeah, I think like that's when the wheels started turning. And then, as you know, obviously, when we start thinking differently, our realities start shifting. And I started getting, my TikTok algorithm, which I had just started getting on during the pandemic, was showing me videos of these entrepreneurs that kind of like left their 9 to 5 and started their own thing. And one person, there was like 2 videos that really, really shifted things for me. One of them was somebody saying, there's somebody out there doing exactly what it is that you want to do, all because they took action. And then another video, which was the only difference between you and the person doing the thing that you want to do is that they started and they're doing it.
Scared. They did it scared.
Yeah. And then I was like, yeah, gotta do it. And that's a big shift.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I really resonate with that. So do you feel like the idea of like, if they can do it, so can I, like, was a part of that?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's they can do it, so can I. And it's also, what are they doing that I'm not doing? What do I need to be doing differently? Because there's some people like that I think is, we go into the workforce, you're told, you go to school, you get a degree, you get a good job, you're going to have this beautiful, amazing life. You get married, you got kids, you have a family. Like, I was promised all these things, like my whole life.
No doubt. Yeah. The millennial promise.
Exactly. Right. You go in, you do everything right. Top of my class. I, graduated with honors. I did all the things. And then it was like hard for me to get a job. And I got a job and I wasn't making money that I wanted to be making. And I was like, how am I going to continue to be doing this? And so I think it's just like, it just started realizing like the way and like the pressures or the constructs that we're told is the way to do things is not actually the way to be successful. And so I was surrounded by
the rules of the game have changed. I feel like the social contract we grew up believing that, like, go get a good university or college, diploma, degree, post-secondary education, you'll be set. And it's like, not really anymore.
Yeah. And I was surrounded by so many successful people that were showing, like, I was seeing it. I was seeing that it's possible, but I just didn't have the answers of what to do. And so when I started getting curious and like viewing and seeing what are they doing differently, then I was able to kind of mimic that and take that into my own life and implement it for myself.
Oh, I love that. That's what I feel like the entrepreneurship journey is all about, and stepping into that new perspective of like, wait a minute, if I'm not an employee, what else can I be? And like, how else is there a way to get a hold of that contract and have it with my name on it, right? Like, I totally resonate with that. Okay, so I want to talk about now, Tamar, some of the tools that you use to like stand in that power and to like stay there and to tell the authentic stories, because it is so important. And it's definitely a skill when you're working with clients, get it, like pulling that information out. As a lawyer, I can really resonate with like, we need all the details, let's get the facts of the story behind it. And that everyone has a subjective perspective of their story. So when it comes to the work that you do with businesses or even in your personal life, like, what are some ways that you pull those authentic stories out?
For sure. I think the first thing they always do is just get into like real conversations, talking about what are their beliefs, what are they doing, what does their day-to-day look like, what are their habits, starting there. Because I really think when it comes to telling your authentic story, even before you can tell the story, you have to believe in the story. You have to believe that you're worthy of sharing the story. And that's something that I always need to start, is understanding that when you show up on social media, when you show up on TV, in any case, when you're telling your story, you have to actually start from a place of understanding that what I do is of incredible value and what I bring to the table is necessary. And the fact that I care about it and the fact that I have a story and the fact that I have something to share means that other people need it. And by me not showing up and not sharing it and making myself too small and being too embarrassed and too shy and not confident enough to share it, you're holding people back from experiencing a transformation. And that is the belief that guides everything that I do. And I'm always sharing that with my clients, because people will come to me and say, oh, I don't have my hair and makeup done today. I don't look good. I don't feel good. I don't feel confident. And I'm like, excuse me? we're not going to even, like, that's not where we're starting. What
Yeah.
you have to share is valuable. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter if you're feeling good today. It doesn't really matter. You need to show up
Yeah.
and share it because other people need it. And if you're in business to support people and help people, then who are you not to share your story? And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's really where it comes down to is the mindset of like, stop making yourself small, stop telling yourself your story is not valuable, and stop telling yourself that people aren't going to care. The fact that you have something to share means people care, and it's going to resonate with the right people, and it's going to just fly over the heads of people who just don't care about what it is that you're doing.
Oh, I love that. That is like central. That is absolutely the central belief. And you nailed it. Um, it's believing that your story is worthy. And I think that comes down to like even having the confidence to like go it on your own in the first place, the having the confidence to think that this passion, this thing that I'm good at, this thing that the universe has like granted me or I've worked at, this little inspiration, my gut to follow this passion, to do this thing. You even have to have the belief that like that's been given to you for a reason, because there's something to follow, that the universe is like, ooh, the ripple effect of you following that passion. I like to kind of think of it sometimes as like we're all flowers, different types of flowers. And like you might be a sunflower and I might be a tulip. And like my full expression of myself looks totally different than your most fullest expression of yourself. But that doesn't mean that the universe wants you to be any less a sunflower or wants me to be any less a tulip. And like, I think, when I think about people's differences and the things that they're passionate about and the things that they want come to me to start businesses about. And I'm sure you work with all different types of clients too and tell so many different kinds of stories. And maybe you can share a little bit about like how the storytelling piece and being your most authentic self translates into business and translates into something that is like a strategy in business.
Oh, totally. This is one of the things that I truly believe. So I think obviously, yes, from a business lens, but even before that, one of the things that I really believed in is self-actualization. And to me, self-actualization is you truly knowing who you are, getting in touch with that highest version of yourself by living in alignment with the things that you want and that light you up. And
Mm,
when you activate that and when you step into self-actualization, getting money, like making money, getting the right clients, finding the aligned people, all of that is like a byproduct of you being in a self-actualized state. So that's like my belief system. And so taking that into a business perspective, it really kind of reflects from there is that when you can be your most authentic self and when you can share your story and when you come from a place of service always, you are going to naturally attract the people who need what it is that you have to give. But it starts with that belief. You have to believe that the reason that you even are good at what you do is because there are people who need it. And you have to believe in yourself and show up with unapologetic confidence every single day. And you are the business, especially when you're a service-based business. And it's all about the energy that you show up in all the time, right? If you're going for a walk and you bump into somebody and you see like they might need help with social media, they might like it can come up in conversation that's not in a salesy way. It just comes up because that's who you are. That's what you're offering. That's what you do. You're always coming from a place of service. Then you're always going to look
mm.
at it and find people who need what it is that you have to give. So I think that's pretty much like the way that I look at it. And I just look at it as like my personal brand is not separate from me. This is what I do. I love doing what I do because I'm always coming at everything from a lens of being of service.
Mm-hmm. I love that. It's so true. And if you build a business that is in alignment with your passion for what you actually want to do in the world, then hopefully you're building your business in a way that you don't hate or that doesn't feel like a shackling you to, a product or a service that you're not passionate about. You brought up something that I'm sure listeners can resonate with, because I know I can. The feeling of, I have a marketing plan. I need to like make content and like here I am and I feel like a bag of crap. Maybe I'm in my luteal phase. Maybe I'm like, not feeling it today. Like what are like, a couple tips that you give to your clients when they, come to you with kind of that challenge?
I would say, okay, number one, you don't always have to be on. And I think there are days when I don't
Mm,
feel like 100%. And there's days when I'm like, I absolutely can't show up. And you have to honor that. You do
yeah.
have to honor that. You like, I do, like, you can plan ahead. There are days, I know for me, like right before I get my period, like you can get me doing everything. I will run, I can start a whole business, scale it to $5 million, and like do everything when I'm just starting my period. Like that is my,
Yeah.
I'm so active.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah. But it's just like, knowing yourself and knowing your energy levels and what you have capacity for. And so I'd say
Yeah.
if you truly have zero capacity, then don't spend it in a way that's going to drain you. Put it in a place where your energy is going to be most multiplied and most useful for you.
Hmm.
But when you do have that energy, when you do feel good, when you do feel like you can show up, then yeah, batch it, save it, make sure you can use it. And maybe you can tell your story in another way if you don't feel like actually showing up and talking. Maybe you can write it out, or just, there's other ways to do it that don't require you to be on 100% of the time. But what I will say also is that building the habit of showing up consistently is equally as important. And then you don't really have those moments where it's hard to show up when you are consistently doing it every single day. For
Mm.
example, I go to the gym every morning. It's not hard for me to go to the gym every morning. It's not hard. I know exactly what I have to do. I got to get dressed, got to put my shoes on, got to go upstairs, go in my condo, and then I go to the gym. It's not physically difficult. It's the mental battle of like, oh my God, I'm tired.
The
I didn't.
decision.
It's the decision, but it's not hard to actually execute on it.
Totally.
Not that you know what I mean? Like I have to actually
Yeah.
do it. Doesn't mean I'm gonna do it every day, but that's my point. But when I'm doing it every single day, then on the days when I don't feel like going, I still am gonna show up maybe 70%, and it's still going to add to my habit. It's still gonna give me success.
Hmm.
It's still gonna help me grow.
Compound.
It's still going to
Yeah.
compound. And that's the same thing when it comes to showing up on social, is that showing up on social, the value of it is not just for literally showing up and making a sale because someone sees you and you have visibility. Showing up consistently, the value of it is that you can then live your brand. That when you go out to parties, you're talking about what it is that you do. That when you go
Hmm.
to a family dinner, you're bringing it up and somebody thinks about, the work you're doing, and they recommend you to a friend. That's the value of showing up consistently every single day. And so
Totally.
make it a habit and do it all the time. And then you won't really have those days where it's like, oh, I don't feel like showing up. It's like,
Hmm.
I wake up and I brush my teeth. Do you ever wake up and not feel like brushing your teeth?
Yeah. I hear that. Oh, it's so true. I want to just circle back to like your beliefs are rock solid. Like I love the conviction behind them.
Thank you.
And I want to like dive into like where that comes from. Like is that like a childhood thing, or is that like do you have like a daily ritual or like a energy hack or habit or like something that you do to like stay in that like fuck yeah, I am solid kind of energy?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I love that you asked that. And it actually requires me to do some introspection afterwards. I'm curious to know where these all really came from. But just off the top of my head, what I would say, growing up, I was always like a people pleaser.
Mhm.
I'm a younger middle child. So,
Okay.
I'm in a really difficult placement in the family. And so I always felt like I need to prove myself. And, I was very loud. I was always very boisterous. I loved performing. That was one thing. I always got external validation from
Mm,
performing, and not external validation. Don't get it confused with confidence, because it's not. It's definitely not. But I
totally.
would
It's
always
different.
sing and dance and do musical theater, and everyone was always like, wow, Tamar's so great. Tamar's so great. And so I would always, like, that's what I played into. And so I think like by getting that and always hearing that feedback, I was like, oh, I love making people happy. I love entertaining people. I love doing that. And so, yeah, I think like I never really had a shake in my confidence as to like whether or not I'm a good singer. It was like, yeah, I'm a great singer. People love hearing me sing,
Right.
no matter what. Like I've only had positive feedback. And then
Mm,
because of that, like that created my internal world where I'm like, I'm a great singer. I'm a great singer. And I believe that and move through life with that. And so, being someone who can perform, I think, storytelling, maybe not everybody, but I think it kind of naturally is an evolution.
mm,
Getting good grades in school, it's, oh yeah, I'm doing great. I'm telling my stories. I went to school for this. So when I'm learning structure and learning strategy and, implementing that. So I'd say my mindset is really built on two things. Number one is having actually done things, like having actually put in the work, learned from it, optimized it, done better, having physical proof and examples. And then number two, like knowing how to share the work that I've done. And that's what I think
mm.
confidence is. Confidence is truly a muscle. You don't get confident by waking up one day and deciding, I'm going to be confident. That's not how it works. You
Yeah.
can try, you can tell yourself affirmations, but that doesn't mean you're going to actually truly embody this level of confidence. I have gotten to this place where I am so confident because I recognize I've been doing it every day. And I think this goes
The
back to
reps.
my point.
You
Yeah.
got
My
receipts.
last point. My last point of like constantly
Yeah.
doing it, making it part of your habits. I show up every single day. I serve my clients every single day. I'm always coming from a place of service, and I see the results that we generate, like
Mm-hmm.
1 year into business, I don't necessarily see that, I'm getting a client 5 million views on his YouTube video. But, 5 years in and having done that 20, 30 times for each client, you start seeing, okay, yeah, I have a strategy. I know what I'm doing. I'm the expert. I actually am an expert. And you start to really settle into that space.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, at the beginning, I definitely struggled with some imposter syndrome of who am I to do this? I'm not an expert. But now I kind of don't really feel that much anymore. It still comes, but not as deeply and intensely because I have done the reps. I put in the work. I see the results. I'm getting the feedback. I'm constantly refining, and I'm humble enough to know, okay, like I'm not perfect, but also I do know what it is that I'm doing. And I'm going to show up and talk about what I'm doing from this place of unapologetic confidence, because people don't want to work with people who are not confident in the work that they're doing. And not to ramble, but I have a really great example. There is every Tuesday here in Playa del Carmen, where I'm currently, there is a trivia night. And I'm not a trivia person. I don't know that much pop culture. I'm like, trivia on social media, great. Business strategy, great. But like, geography and pop culture, no, not my thing.
Sure. Yeah.
And I joined this team, and there were some things that I knew, some movies, some things, they asked some questions about, pop stars that I knew a little bit. And people like would look to me. I just met these people. They would all look to me to guide them and be the leader of this team. And I recognized that I was in this, it was a really interesting metaphor for me because I realized what a place of power I had. The only reason these strangers believed me and had confidence in me is because I had confidence in myself.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's an energy thing, right?
exactly. We only lost by half a point. So clearly I was right on a
Yeah,
lot of,
doing something right.
but what I'll say though is that I managed to convince 5 people who I had just met in that moment to trust me because I was so confident in my conviction. And that is literally, I see this all the time. Like, what is the difference? And even years ago when I was in my business, I was like, I get really good results. Why are other people making more money than me? Why are other social
Mm-hmm.
media managers doing better than me? And that was the missing link. They were showing up and telling their stories and sharing their work with unapologetic confidence, even if it wasn't good. So I'm like, wow, my work is great. So imagine what will happen if I show up with unapologetic confidence and talk about the 5 million views we just got for this client on TikTok,
Mm-hmm.
or the 200 million views we just got for this client on a YouTube video. And it paid off because when you're confident to talk about things that you do, people want to learn from you and gain from you and experience that confidence and that positive energy. So that's what I would say.
I love that. And like, yeah, you're kind of leading me there already, but like I was hoping for like a final gold nugget. And I think you kind of skirted around that and talked about that unapologetic confidence piece. So if there was like one final belief or nugget that you could leave for the listeners tomorrow, what would that be?
Yeah, I'd say, if you're an entrepreneur, you went into this and you started your business because you want to have an impact and you want to help people. And the best way you can help people is by not keeping yourself small. Show up, take up space, understand that you deserve to own that space. And that by you not taking up the space and not showing up and not sharing your story and helping people in the way that you help people, you're stopping them from experiencing a transformation. When you show up with unapologetic confidence, every single person around you is going to win, especially you and especially the people that you are trying to serve.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so freaking powerful. So for those who are going to be hooked on Tamar's unapologetic confidence and want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to, follow along, Tamar?
Yeah, so I'm pretty active on Instagram as well as on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has been a really fun place for me. I know we didn't talk social strategy, but definitely recommend popping
Well,
on.
we can revisit that another time. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can find me on LinkedIn. My name on LinkedIn is Tamar Lyons. You can also find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Lyons Digital Marketing. And you can find me on my website also, www.lyonsdigitalmarketing.ca.
Okay. Awesome. That was such an incredible conversation, Tamar. I knew it was going to be, and I'm so glad that I was able to, learn about your story, and the listeners were able to come along for your journey of pulling that unapologetic confidence out and being so bold and authentic with your story. If you love the conversation, please, take a screenshot, share it on Instagram, subscribe, follow, tag me at soul.attorney, and tag Tamar at Lyons Digital Marketing. We'd love to hear some of your biggest takeaways. And with that in mind, friends, Tamar, thank you so much for being here. Stay sovereign. And now court is in recess. Oh, 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 oh. That's a wrap for this episode of Sovereign Conversations with the Soul Attorney. If today's conversation sparked something in you, let's keep that momentum going. Head on over to www.thesoulattorney.com to grab free resources, explore my membership community, The Cornerstone, and step even deeper into your power. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Until next time, my friends, keep leading, keep trusting, and keep building your empire on your own terms. See you soon.